All right, everybody, welcome to the KAAMP. This is Thomas Zachary, and today I have a guest that is not only a Tennessee resident, but he is my first regional guest, first guest from outside of Knoxville. I'm very much excited to have him on today. Will you please introduce yourself?
Yeah, my name is Matthew Cutright. I am a multidisciplinary artist from Nashville, Tennessee. I focus on abstract, colorful art. I like to just throw color out in the world. You can find me on Instagram at Matt Cutright Art, all lowercase, one word. Yeah, I'm just happy to be here.
Well, glad to have
too.
you. So you picked up the table I'd made and posted a few weeks ago. It's a nebula style coffee table, glows in the dark and all the UV stuff. I'm happy you are happy to have it.
I am very happy to have it. It's very much up my aisle in what I like artistically. I love, again, like I said, color. I love galaxies, nebulas. I'm a huge Brave kid, so neons, black light. It fits so much my aesthetic for my own home and for my creativity, what I like, and it's just well done. So I'm very happy about this table. I'm so excited.
Well, I'm glad I could help you acquire it. So what methods or avenues of expression do you use most often?
When I was younger, I was definitely very much focused on dance. I have a degree in dance from MTSU. But lately I stepped away from dance a little bit to discover more of myself outside of that world. So my visual art is very canvas or found art based. I do very Jackson Pollock a la kind of things, but I definitely mess up with the colors a little bit different. I also like to paint liquor bottles and wine bottles because I feel like, one, don't throw it away, just make it something new.
Right.
And I like finding things on the street, kind of what you did with the table.
Yeah.
I have something I call the CD lantern. It's a shelf I found in Oak Cliff, Texas, just on the street, and I painted it black and did a mosaic of CDs, and it actually works as a functioning lantern.
Oh, there you go. Awesome.
So I'm a bit all over the place. Right now I'm focused more so on the canvas work with acrylics and abstract color exploration and painting bottles, because people like them.
Yeah, people do. Do you have, outside of dance, do you have any formal artistic education?
Nope.
Nope, not
dance
at all?
was my only actual art education. Everything else has just kind of been for my own need mentally, or for my own, again, decorating my house. I'm not going to go buy art, I'll just make art, because
Right.
it's better for me to do that for my own self mentally, but also it's my art in my house.
Yeah, that's fair.
Yep. And then things just kind of, I just didn't stop, and people started paying attention. I was like, awesome.
Yeah.
Let's go.
If you want it, yes, I'll let you have it.
Yeah.
We can talk.
100%.
Right. How did dancing branch into these other forms? How, when, why? Did that serve you well?
Yes, it has served me very well. I think I still dance. I'm in classes at Nashville Ballet right now, just to keep up with it, because I left it a while ago. But dance really, because when you go to school for dance, it's not just ballet, it's not just modern, jazz, West African, or all those things. It's lighting design, costume design, makeup, acting.
Yeah, the context is
the
very broad.
whole idea, kinesiology, biology, musicology. So there's so much going on in an actual dance education. And when it comes to art, how that really influenced my artistic expression is, again, color, but also I can't paint without music. I don't know how to do that. And so a lot of my hand motions when I do the splatter work, or when I get into spray painting the galaxies and things that I do, it is actually very choreographed. Not a lot of people see that when they look at the painting, but that's my, what's the word I'm looking for?
Part of your workflow?
Part of my workflow is, turn on the music, and what does the sound look like? How do I need to move while I'm painting this piece? So I'm always dancing. And the lighting taught me about lights. Obviously, lighting taught me about light. But also color theory.
Right.
And then makeup, you also have to think about angles of the face, and then color theory as well. What are the lights doing? So what color do you put on this person's face? Is their skin tone different? So what do you need to do to adjust? So I think that education just informed me so much on what art could be. It's just a big balloon that should never pop. It should just keep blowing up, you know?
I like that analogy.
Thanks. So dance and my theater education influenced my art by being free and understanding and educationally understanding what color is and what movement is and how I can move through a canvas of creating color.
Sounds
Yeah.
Like, it sounds like
No
you
one's
really-
ever asked me that question, so I was like,
Sounds like you've developed a pretty intertwined way between all of your expressions to use them sort of all at the same time to create different end products.
Yes,
Depending on what you're aiming for.
I try very much because I'm also part of. So I discovered you at the Walls Art Park.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, same.
Because and loved the jellyfish. Loved it. So good.
That was fun. It was fun.
And I was actually there as a part of an art collective.
Yeah,
Seeing Circles. Yeah. And it's really fascinating because our artistic director is a painter. She does canvas work as well, but she's also a body painter. So she's used me as a dancer and a model to do the body painting. And I'm like, this is a fascinating way to take in the abstract art that I do and actually put it on my physical body.
Yeah.
So it's awesome because that's always the goal, to take all the things that I do and make it one career.
Just be creative as across the board, whatever comes your way.
These
or
are the things I
do.
do, who wants it?
Right, because if that's your thing, then that's your thing, and then that's your thing. Mm-hmm. Because that's what you do. People are a little funny about where they go, but when they find that thing and they know they want to work with other people, it's great.
Yep, and sets that spark off. You're like, you're that weirdo I've been looking for.
Yeah, exactly. I think you can do the crazy thing in my head. Like, yeah,
cool. Let's try it. Let's see if I can, because I'm down for the journey.
So when did you start dance?
I've always loved dance. I've always loved music, and I did little choreography things for my preschool talent shows and things. But I think I really started dancing when I became a half-timer for the Hillwood High School dance team, which, keep in mind, this was not none of those pom-pom throwing around dance teams. This was 2005, 2006, crumping Lil Jon during the basketball games. This was a crump hip-hop dance team. And as far as I know, I'm going to brag a little, but as far as I know, I was the only white boy ever on the team. Throwing it out there.
Okay.
So that's when I first started dancing. Literally learning choreography, understanding my body, and I loved it so much. I did musical theater as a kid too, and so they would always throw me in the dance numbers. They're like, oh, hey, he can dance. Have him do it.
Yeah, no way you were getting out of it at that point.
No way I was getting out of it, but when I turned 18 and went to college, I made a decision after my freshman year because I took my first classical jazz dance class. I loved it. Mm-hmm. It was so much fun. And there was an enjoyment in me knowing that it was one of those moments where I was like, I think I should have been doing this a long time ago. I fit in with the people who did it. And so Angela Armstrong, shout out, Middle Tennessee State University. At 18, she taught me my first dance class, and I've been hooked ever since.
It all clicked right then?
It all clicked right then and there. And then I officially changed my major to a theater major with a dance concentration, because at the time they didn't have the full major degree.
Right.
So I was a theater major with a focus in dance. And I went full into ballet, modern, more jazz, West African. Yeah, it was great.
So you feet first?
Huh?
Dove in feet first.
Dove in feet first. Feet first, absolutely. They pointed horribly, but now they point quite well.
Well, good. So how soon or how long after that did you start to branch out and do other mediums?
Probably around the same time, because sophomore year in college, I moved into an apartment with a friend of mine, and it was one of those cheap college apartments just out in Murfreesboro by the college, and the walls were white.
Unacceptable.
Unacceptable. Absolutely unacceptable. Every single wall was just white. Not off-white, cream, beige, no.
White.
Insane asylum white.
Oh, no.
And
you had to do something about it.
I had to do something. And, college, I was definitely a wild one because I was a very shy child. So once I got away from everything
home.
I just experienced and experimented and ran wild, so we drank a lot. And so the bottles, that's actually how me painting and using other things came about. We had all these beer bottles and things around. It wasn't like we were alcoholics, but there was always one or two.
Yeah, there's... Oh, yeah.
I was like, you know what, there's no color in this house. I'm just going to paint this bottle and put flowers in it. Do something weird, right?
Sounds fair. Why not?
Why not?
Yeah.
And then I just didn't stop. And then I would look at one of the bottles I painted. I was like, I think that would actually look really cool if I took that color scheme and put it on a canvas, a la Jackson Pollock.
Okay.
Because when you're a dance major, you also study art movements, cubism, surrealism, things like that. So I was like, okay, let me try it out. And somebody bought it 2 days later. I was like, what? You like
All
this
right.
weird, drunk, dancy in a moment on my back patio throwing color around because I saw this one bottle? I was like, I can do it again. And then a friend of mine bought it from college, and it was always something I did for my own health and my own home. And then when I lived in Dallas for a couple of years, I started really diving into it just because I was trying to drink less and spend more time at home.
Fair.
So I started painting more. I had gone through some things, so I started painting more.
That's
And then I
wonderful.
was actually contacted by Raw Artists. They reached out to me to do a show in Dallas. And then I finally saw, like, people question my art
Yeah.
in both a negative and positive way. They wanted to know why I did things, and I was like, I don't.
It felt good.
It felt good. It's pretty. But having people ask those questions and then learning, I was like, actually, I do have an answer, was kind of the final catalyst to be like,
Yeah.
okay, I'm diving in,
I can
not just
explain
feet
this
first
now.
in this, just head first into this other venue, and I'm going to, so 20 was when it started as a hobby, 24 was when people started paying attention, and then 30 was when I made a decision. I was like, okay, no, I'm a full-fledged artist,
All right,
not just a
there you go.
dancer. My name
Yeah.
is Matthew, and I love color.
Hell yeah. Also, forgot to mention, if you didn't notice when I sent you the link, this podcast is explicit. We can talk about whatever we want. There's, like, you can cuss. It's cool.
Okay, cool. It was actually a question I wanted to ask, and
It's
then I
not
was
for
like,
children. Yeah, we can say whatever. So,
cool.
fuck.
Fuck it. I fucking love color.
Yeah, there you go. Yeah, it's explicit for exactly that reason. I don't want people to feel like they can't fully express themselves in front of this particular microphone. So,
And when
speak as you will.
when artists talk about their art, everybody gets excited. So the words just
You see the passion.
You see the passion, and then the thought process behind the passion stops going so much as like, let me tell you, and then all the words start to fly out.
Yeah, and it's faster than your tongue can keep up. Mm-hmm. Yep.
A little tongue twisted with an F-bomb in there.
Every now and again. So, what's your workflow like? Do you find some sort of zen or peace of mind in your workflow? Do you have like a really regimented workflow? Like, give us an
definitely
eye on
don't
that.
have a regimen. I don't have a lot of time off with my day job, unfortunately, because I work in restaurants, and COVID kind of messed that whole thing up.
A little bit.
A little bit, just a tiny bit. I can't complain too much because the money is great, which is making me afford better art products. But I definitely don't have a regimen. Usually what it is I have Wednesdays off. And so I listen to myself. I'm like, is today going to be a day I want to work, or is today going to be a chill? Because usually with only one day off a week, I sometimes need to really just
Yeah,
do my laundry and watch TV.
Yep.
But usually I wake up, and if it's one of those, no, I'm energized, I'm in a good mood, I want to do things, I'll go out to my parents' garage, which is where all my stuff is. The copra paint, acrylics, canvases, skulls, bottles, all these things, and I just kind of look at it and I put on music. And I usually don't try too hard until the song does something, like I mentioned earlier.
Yeah.
I need the song to throw my brain into the imagination land. And when that song strikes, I usually will just look at my paint and see what color the song reminds me of. And then I just play
It
and do
happens from
things
there.
and dance and see what happens. Sometimes if I see that things aren't really coming together, I will rein in the focus and be like, okay, I'm having a little too much fun and nothing's really coming together in a finalized professional way. So let me take a step back, pause the music, go get some water, eat a sandwich, come back and relook at it again.
Yeah.
But my regimen is always based off of fun and play, and then a refining process later.
And do those ever bleed into one another, or are they always separate, or does it fluctuate?
It fluctuates.
Okay.
Sometimes those really some of my favorite canvases I did in 10 minutes, which is awesome.
Yeah.
And then some of my favorite canvases took like a month, 2 months, because it started as something, and I was like, I have a good idea, I didn't do it well, so let me step back. So it's very fluid.
Yeah.
My work process.
Been there. Sometimes you're like, no, I'm gonna play with this another time and see what happens next. Yeah, for sure.
I have this one piece. It's very much not like a lot of my other things. It's very ghosty, very red, very orange, and very fire and dark. And I love what's happening with it, but it's still not done. I've been working on this canvas for like 3 months because I'm like, I don't know what to do. Because I don't want to lose the darkness, but I'm such a neon raver kid. And I'm like, throw neon on it. It's like, no.
Too much contrast.
Too much.
Well, I know the feeling because you've seen my work.
Yeah, and I love your work. It's bright and colorful, and then sometimes it's like, blah. And then I don't know what you call them, they kind of look like the table, but it's more like that flowy, symmetrical...
No, the brushwork stuff?
Yes.
Or the pinstripey stuff, yeah.
Love.
I enjoy that a lot. That's... I have that in my workflow experience, so that's why I like to ask the question about other people's workflow, or if they find peace of mind or zen, that flow state inside their workflow somehow, or if it's constantly a conscious thing where you're always thinking about the next step. You're not really... in the moment, you're beside it, quantifying it somehow, which sometimes, you have to flip in and out of, but some people it's like that the whole time. Other people's it's none, and there's a lot in between, and I find that really interesting being a creative person myself, so that's why I ask.
I do too. The artistic director of Seeing Circles, Mary, when I watch her paint, most of her canvases are month-long works. But when you look at it, you wouldn't think it would take so much of a long time, grammar. But she literally sits there. I've watched her work. She'll sit there for 20 minutes and just stare at a canvas and be like, teal. I'm like, cool, I could have told you that 20 minutes ago. However, her precise brushwork is probably why
she wants to know what she's doing.
Where she's going, the amount of like pressure on the brush, and I'm just so not that artist. I'm like, teal, Mary.
Throw it at it.
Throw it. Splatter it.
But, I mean, there's merits to that. If that's her workflow and it works great for her, then great.
She's
obviously quite happy with it.
Mm-hmm. It's how she works, and I'm excited to learn from her, too, because I don't have any actual art education. I don't really use brushes that often. I do for bigger things.
So what do you throw the paint with? Just sticks or what?
Technically, the brush is in my hand.
But you don't brush. You don't use it as a
unless
brush.
I'm painting a background, because that is one thing with my splatter art. I'm not just going to give you a black background or a white background.
That's fair.
I will do those things, but I'll also give you a metallic gold, a pink, a green, or one of my favorite pieces, Seafoam, that's up on my Instagram, is 3 different colors in the backgrounds. And then I do the same 3 colors on a splatter, just going the opposite direction.
Nice.
Because splatter art is not something that anybody can just do. It looks so easy, but if your colors aren't right, if the background is just empty, or there's no texture, or there's not a power to it, then you're just throwing color at a wall.
You can tell if there's some forethought about it or not. I feel that way about a lot of port art myself. That might be an unpopular opinion, but
no, I definitely because I love port art because again, color. Oh my god, the color is
super colorful,
so colorful and so beautiful.
And I've painted stuff over it, so it has a purpose. But when people are just like, I poured this.
I poured this.
Like, oh man.
Yeah, but you didn't put thought process into how the paint's pouring. Did you layer the colors?
When people use stencils and stuff to disrupt the flow and patterns, that's when I get really excited about it. But that's just me.
I get excited. Instagram is a very interesting thing when it comes to art nowadays, don't you think?
Yeah, it's not very advantageous for people like us.
No, but at the same time, that's how people operate nowadays. Maybe I'm putting it too much from a dancer brain because I was taught in college to show up with a notebook of photos from pieces I've been in, programs of the concerts I've been in, my full-on resume, my collegiate, scholarly, touring, blah, blah, blah.
All that.
And now I show up for an audition, they're like, what's your Instagram? I'm like, oh. There's really inappropriate stuff on that. I didn't know. I brought my portfolio. Do you want to look at that? And they're like, no. I'm like, oh. So the whole...
I've never been in that position, but I can't say there aren't things on there that would for sure upset somebody. I just was trying to win a free bowl, man. Right?
Damn. Raw, the papers, they posted something like, win a bowl, so I reposted it. And now you want to see my Instagram for a job? I wasn't expecting that.
Yeah.
But it's an interesting dynamic.
For sure. I guess I feel like that's a good read on somebody.
I mean, it's funny because I have 2 Instagrams, the personal and the one my art Instagram, and I operate them so differently because of I have to be myself, and I have to be myself as an artist because I'm sure you've experienced this too. Like, you have to be an artist.
It's a separate facet from your normal walking around the street self.
Yes, but if you don't incorporate enough of yourself into your artistic personality, people won't latch on.
See, I think, yes, first of all.
And it makes it weird.
And it does kind of make it weird, because how personal and how personable are you to the point where you may or may not be expending too much energy of your social battery to just feel good about yourself at the end of the day.
Mm-hmm.
And that can be stressful all by itself, and then managing that actually is stressful all by itself. And then, like, making another little sliver of your personality that you have to present to a wide audience as such a small facet of you is also really weird.
And then you have to leave it all behind and then go create the things you're promoting on these things.
Yeah, because that's a separate facet of your personality that isn't your walking around in the street self. Like, that's you doing your thing. That's the important one. But these two are so big, Like,
I've always felt that most artists, not to make light of split personality disorder, that's not the goal of that statement, but I always felt like most artists have, like, some kind of ability to separate and place their personality traits.
It's like when you pick up the phone and turn on your sales voice.
Yeah.
Yeah, but your whole person.
Yeah,
because you're not on the phone most of the time. But yeah, I think that's a fair analogy. It's difficult for a lot of people, including myself, but some people are just do it, and then I know people that do really well just being themselves on the internet somehow, and it works just fine for them.
Wouldn't it be great?
It doesn't make any sense.
It doesn't make, like, I love social media because the interconnectivity it gives artists, musicians. I can look at things from over in Egypt and see what they're doing, and I think that is beautiful. But what is an influencer? I don't want to be an influencer. I want people to like my stuff and pay attention because I like attention. I'm a theater kid. I like attention.
But I'm not trying to tell anybody how to be.
No. I don't want a million people looking at me. I mean, you can look at my website and buy my art. Yeah. That's awesome. Don't look at me. Come to my shows. Come to the concerts. If I'm performing somewhere, yeah. Obviously, those are those moments you're supposed to be looking at me. But I can't focus on an Instagram account for millions of followers 24/7. Like, how vapid.
Yeah, I could.
But also at the same time, not to bring down the influencers, because if they're paying their rent and all these things off of being on Instagram, I mean, run your hustle. It's just so weird what social media has done to the artistic community.
Yeah, I try to prioritize, like, physical interactions with people, like, out and about in the world, the face-to-face stuff. Over those type of interactions, but they interplay so tightly. It's kind of hard not to have them in some capacity or another in any type of, like, whether it be just acquaintances or people that know each other reasonably well. All that stuff, they're so tight into that kind of social structure nowadays. It's kind of ridiculous. But if I'm out at a show, I much would rather talk to someone face to face, and even if they don't buy the thing and they're just there to chill and look around. Like, chat me up about my stuff.
Yeah.
Because I can't sit around the house and talk to me about my stuff.
No.
I hate it, bro.
That creates a very, very possibly dangerous inner, like, cyclical kind of thought process.
There's a reason more things that I make in my house are leaned up in the corner than they are on the wall. Because I don't need to see everything on the wall that I do all the time.
I see it all the time.
I see it all the time. It's in my head. It's carrying with me all the time.
All the time.
So I don't need it on the wall, and that's why... I don't need that feedback loop in my brain seeing that image all the places all the time. So I just I'll lean it up in the corner and put something else on top of it.
Yep. I have a little my parents have this little, like, upper attic storage, and, like, it's a kind of weird on the side of the roof. It's weird. All my canvases are just sitting there, other than some to decorate my bedroom when I move back in. And so it's weird when I go to every art show, I'm just like, let me, like, lug it all out.
Right.
My dad asked me one time, he's like, put some up. I was like, where? First of all, where, Dad? And do you really want this, like, neon yellow, blue splatter paint up in your house?
Yeah, put it in the dining room.
Put it in the dining room. I mean, it'll work great in probably Steve Aoki's dining room.
Right. Right.
So it's really, like, same, like, shoved in a corner. I'm just like, it's all, like, in the storage unit. It's climate controlled, it's clean, and if I need to go back to it, it's there. Because, like you said, it's in my head all the time.
All the time.
I have an internal map of every single piece I've created because it's still in my head.
Yeah, like, you remember the moment because you were so in it, I guess.
Mm-hmm.
there was no detachment from that because you were dancing around to the music, slinging paint at this thing, having a good time.
You're having a great time.
Good.
I actually saw DJ Minnesota Friday night in Nashville before I drove out here, and the light show was pretty decent. It was a small venue, so we only had what he could work with, but there was one moment where it was very green, the lights, and then it all of a sudden went super purple, and I was like, I want to go home and paint. And it was like 2 o'clock in the morning. I was like, no.
I know that feeling. Like, I need to make stuff right now.
Right now. I need to do it now. And
Right now.
like, I'm in the middle of downtown Nashville at a dubstep show. Like, I'm not going anywhere anytime soon. But remember that dance moment, that moment of color and light and happiness. Like, I'm going to paint that.
Yeah, lots of times I get like shapes in my head, and somehow they don't necessarily spawn from a feeling, but there's usually a feeling or a pattern of thought that's associated with them, and then the shape just sort of comes to mind as a picture in my brain after the thought happens. And I usually try to draw that for like the geometric stuff that I do. That's usually how that comes to be. I'll draw a configuration of circles, and then I'll accessorize or make those circles. You know, I will play with those shapes and make that happen. And I try to provide a lot of contrast, and that moment where I'm just like, oh, this circle, this way, that way, this way. I don't normally work with music because my phone is just generally out of reach, and I don't have a speaker in my studio. But just analyzing this shape and how I want it to play next, and on the shape that I'm flowing over, cascading onto, or trying to surround, it's definitely a nice reactionary process I can get into to
I
make
like that word,
flow.
reactionary.
Yeah,
I think a lot of art is reactionary.
for sure.
I can't remember the quote, but I read a quote somewhere where basically what the quote was saying was art is a reaction to blah blah blah, whatever, the Ethernet or whatever. And I think artists have such a powerful way of reacting in a healthy way, because we don't lash out. I mean, we all do. We are all human, so we have those moments. But artists look at themselves and they react to something and then they create. And I think that's a super powerful thing for an artist to do. And I think that word reactionary is such a powerful word when it comes to art. Even the toilet in the fucking Guggenheim, that whole thing, it was the artist being reactionary to what people think of art. Now, did I think it was lazy and trash and I would never want to pay to see a toilet seat in a museum? He was reacting.
Right.
And then people went to a museum and looked at a toilet seat because he reacted to an attitude. Mm-hmm. And so much of art is reaction, and I think it's so beautiful and powerful.
I swear, I wish I remember where I saw this or heard this, but I saw this quote once. That's super credible. I saw this quote once. But it said artists are the mirrors for society. And I totally... I feel that, and I feel as if that's totally correct. I feel some artists are far more accurate mirrors in the sense of reflection than I am. But if you were to ask me when, where, or what inspired any of my pieces, I could certainly tell you 100%.
100%.
Like, there's no question about it. I don't have a single painting of mine in my house where it's just like, oh, I don't know what I was thinking that time. It's just pretty, dude.
Yep.
Like, no.
See, unfortunately, I do have a couple of pieces where I was like, I don't know what I was thinking. And those are usually the times when I was trying too hard to make art, because I'm an artist, so I have to make art. Mm. And those pieces always suck.
Yeah.
They're always garbage. I'm like, why did I put that color next to beige? Oh my god. It's a muddy mess, or... the bottles are hard because bottles have,
there's
shape. There's textures, and there's shapes, and there's angles, and they're round. They're not flat. And so there's been a couple bottles where, I have this brilliant idea, and then I go about it the wrong way, and then I try to fix it. Mm. And because it's such a structured shape.
Yeah.
And then I literally just look at this bottle covered in this muddy paint. I'm like, well, that's garbage.
Well, do you ever just, coat it in white and start over, or do you just grab another bottle?
Depending on the color of what's underneath.
That's fair.
There have definitely been a couple bottles where... Are you kicking me?
She'll do that.
She'll do that?
Decca's giving mad cuddles right now, everybody.
I'm very happy about it. Hi, Decca. But depending on the color of the bottle, sometimes I will just go full black or full white and start over. I work in my parents' garage. So sometimes bugs and insects find their way into my work.
When you let things dry outside, it happens.
Yeah. Well, not even like inside the garage, but the windows up because I work with a lot of spray paint and my mom's got a lot of health issues, so I'm trying not to mess with that. One of my favorite pieces just has a mosquito in the middle.
Man.
And I'm like, one day I will figure out how to get in there with like very tiny devices to make sure the painting doesn't get ruined, but also get the mosquito off. But it's one of those sitting in the corner in the attic that I'm like, it's good.
This is the one. This is the one.
I just have to get the mosquito off. I had a commission the other day for a pink bottle splattered with black because they had bought one from a raffle that the company had done and they wanted another one. So I was like, dope.
Yeah, for sure.
Yeah, that's exactly how this works. Promotion. People win a bottle and they're like, can I have another one? Yeah. So I painted 3 bottles and it was a very windy day. And so one bottle was blown over and then rolled away. So the paint was just texturized, ruined. I can't do anything with it unless I go with that texture. And I was like, I'm on a budget and a time limit. Another bottle had 3 flies land on it. And when I painted the 3rd bottle, I was running out of the paint that apparently Krylon, I'm calling you out, Krylon, has stopped making. So I couldn't even color match at that point. So I had to contact the person for this, and it was not like she didn't spend. It was a $30 beer bottle. Like, I'm not trying to cause a huge thing about it, but like.
But you gotta be honest about it.
I have to be honest. Like, so I told you I'd have this to you in 3 days. That's not true.
It's gonna be a few more.
It's gonna be a few more. But I also kind of love those moments. That's the fun. It's the whimsy. It's the wild side of creating art.
Yeah, when things happen, you just got to roll with it because you can't control everything. Like
Nope.
I do a lot of really long brush strokes in my artwork, and I know that in no capacity will I absolutely ever be able to do 2 perfectly symmetrical lines. Never, ever. And I know if it has more than 2 lines of symmetry, I sure as hell ain't getting 3 or 4 or 6.
You found the unicorn, don't push your luck.
Yeah, exactly. Like, I know what I can do, and if, the end of one of those strokes it goes some direction I didn't want it to go, well then I just gotta be okay with it unless I want to take extreme measures to fix it somehow, whatever that
And
may
those
take.
extreme measures are extreme. Those are usually like Mary sitting at a canvas and deciding teal after 20 minutes.
Mm-hmm.
Like, if you have to fix something, because as you're thinking about the fixing, excuse me, sorry, the paint is drying.
Right.
Actively. So, like, you have to make a quick decision, gonna change it, but then you have to dig into it and you're like, how do you change it? Like, can I do it? That's why I don't mess with brushes.
See, all right, so here's how I screw myself with brushes in a metaphorical fashion. I usually use a bristled brush and not a sponge brush to do my backgrounds on some of my like pinstripe work pieces. And since it's a brush, it'll have a directionality to it, and sometimes
a texture too.
Yes, that as well. And then I will have sparkle or glow pigment or some kind of metallic oxide, iron oxide, something that shines in there in some form or fashion. And if you just go in with black again or white again and just, I'm going to do this little spot, it just does not work.
It does not work.
So a lot of the pieces that I find myself doing, or a lot of the moves in my pieces I find myself doing, are kind of one-shot deals. And it's just, that's what it is. And then you can try and fix it, but you might as well just run with the first stroke and
or just start a whole new thing.
Yeah, exactly. Like, you can either say, I'm okay with this and move on, or just like throw your hands in the air and give up and start again. Because that's literally how decisive it is.
Mm-hmm.
And I think that's one of the things that helps me overall as a person be more accepting of the things that I can and cannot control, because I realize I can do 98% of that brushstroke perfect within reason, and then the last 2% be a shit.
Yeah, I think that's a fantastic way to say that. Again, like I mentioned earlier, artists have a great way of reacting, and our reaction to things is better than the typical human. Not to be bad about it, but like, we react in creation, and that the things we create are usually imperfect.
Mm-hmm.
Because no one's perfect, and no one will ever create a perfect thing. But we want to create, and we have this need to create, and we understand at some point that this piece is either going to A, be judged, B, loved, C, hated, Or D, nobody cares. But I care. And I still had to create it. So it allows me to have that, I love that you said that, a way to look at the world where I'm like, it's okay. I mean, like, I tried and I did 98% perfect, but that last 2% got a bit wonky. Well, but you know what? I'm not going to stress out about that because that 98% is
a really strong 98%.
Is a really strong 98%. Yeah. So I'm going to give my brain a break and not worry about the 2%.
Yeah, for sure. The piece I painted yesterday, and that's why I use the brushstroke analogy, because every time I would relieve pressure on this brush in the stroke, it would just be like, I'm going this way. And I was so mad. And I sat there for a few minutes just being like, screw this brush. But it's the only brush I got that size, so I needed it. I couldn't just be like, screw this brush. So there were so many factors forcing my hand here.
And that's... having one brush and one size and no other brush like that, as somebody who doesn't even use brushes, like, I am very meticulous because that's a lot of thought process on that one.
Well, but see, I have all these things, and then once the pieces are in place, the formula is really simple. As far as, I can make an analogy about it. I just have all the things in one spot, and all I got to do is do this once and that once and this once and that once. So in that respect, like, the flow of it is smooth, and it's not super technical, but the thought involved are the hurdles. It would flick left when I wanted it to flick right, or have a nice smooth tail to a point, and it just did not want to cooperate. And I looked at it and I said, all right. I took a deep breath and I was just like, this is going to be what it is. I'm not going to like it, but it's going to feel good as I'm doing it, because the process for me is therapeutic. And hopefully somebody likes it one day.
Yep. I feel that way about a lot of my art. Not necessarily when mistakes happen, but, my stuff is so colorful and it's so splattery, Jackson Pollock, or it's a wine bottle or a cabinet with CDs glued to it. Yeah. I always feel like, I don't know, well, I need to do it for my own cathartic release, and it's going to feel so good to do this. Hopefully somebody will like it.
Yeah. Well, there's that thing that you experience being a human when you have capabilities, that there's this thing in my head, and it's been in my head, and it really needs to come out, and then all of a sudden you put in some time, energy, thought, effort, and you have this tangible thing in front of you that, oh shit, like, I did that happened, it's real. 6 months ago it was in my head, or 6 weeks ago, whatever. So there you go. Like, I can turn this thing and look at it from all angles and touch it and feel it. And you get to craft and execute that as well. So you have total control as much as possible on the creation of this thing. And then if you successfully create it to your own expectations, then awesome.
It's awesome. And it kind of leaves your head.
Yeah. It leaves you alone after that.
It leaves you alone after that. It was itching at you for 6 months, but when you finally, what you said, focused, took some time and did it, it's no longer there. But it now exists. Yeah, it's a fantastic moment.
It's I've had ideas bug the piss out of me for like a year before I even draw an initial sketch or put it on canvas, or like draw that initial circle of bones. I call it the bones because I think that's cool. The bones of the piece.
The piece. Yeah.
So that'll be the pencil line of circles or shapes, whatever, over the black background or white background. I think it's just fun to say the bones of it. So.
That's really nice.
But yeah, I'll draw those out on a piece of paper usually before I take it to canvas. I'll just look at it. Yeah, like, all right, well, let's go.
I have learned that when I first started taking my painting seriously back in Dallas, I tried to do the whole paper, pencil, map out my ideas. Did not go very well.
Well, you have such an involved workflow. It's hard to abstract that to an initial sketch.
And that's what it was, is I was like, that I'm an artist, I'm going to create, and this is what I'm going to create, and I'm going to make sure it's good, so I'm going to map it out.
That's when you're imposing too much structure on yourself.
That's when I was trying too hard, and the pieces come up awful. It's really funny because the art park, when Singing Circles did the mural, we thought we were going to get a wall, and we got a cube. Yeah. So Mary had come up with a design on paper and pencil that I was like, cool, I can do my background stuff and you do the main design that requires shape and focus and brushwork, and I will fill in all the abstract, spacey things beyond that. And then we showed up to a cube, which is fascinating because we actually got 4 walls instead of 1.
But they're tiny walls.
But they were tiny walls, and that was not the plan. And so her boyfriend and I actually drove together. It was a dude's car and a girl's car. We got there before, and I'm expecting the wall. And I have the circles and the hearts and the stars and the galaxy. Like, I know exactly how I'm going to attack this. And because I'm early, I can start laying in that background before Mary even gets here, relieve some of my boss's stress.
Yeah. Not how that went down.
Not how that went down. And her boyfriend is not an artist. He works with artists, but he's not like a painter or a musician. He loves and appreciates and understands. But he was just like, hey, Matthew. And I was like, no. And I'm literally just staring at a cube for 10 minutes going, what the fuck? But there were 3 painters there, and we each got our own wall, and then we blended all of our styles together. So I've just come to realize that paper and pencil does not work for Matthew.
I mean, that's fair, and that's not a constant piece of my workflow, but if it's the closest thing I have at hand and I can sketch out the bare necessities of this piece, I'll usually do it because I don't like wasting the canvas. I don't like painting a base coat twice. There's something annoying about that to me that if I can do what I can to avoid that, then I'm doing all right. Because I just don't want to fuck up first thing.
Yeah.
You know, I really don't.
Completely understand that. Because I like to play with the backgrounds in my splatter paint. There's been some times when I'm like, oh, I have an idea, and then I attack it because I'm excited, the song's playing, so I just go at it. There was one I was trying to do like a Harley Quinn thing with red and black contrasting, and then it just turned into just a muddy black thing. And I was like, oh, I probably should have calmed down.
Too much.
Too much. But the thought process of an artist is probably something we could talk about for hours.
Oh, for sure. It's different for everyone, and some people can explain it and some people can't.
No,
and there's a million other things I could say about it.
Would it make sense?
Where do we stop?
If you can just take a rave, like if you've ever been to a rave, that's what my brain is at all times, but the lights are actually just like paint. It's like go to a paint party, like one of those big raves where
where
you
they
can buy
paint over everyone.
Yeah, go to that, and that is my brain.
Okay.
Constantly, and that's what my artwork looks like, or at least I like to think, or at least I hope.
I mean, I agree. I totally agree. So, outside of that little instance right there, how was your art park experience? Because I really enjoy hearing about people's art park experience, because that is such a luxury to me as an artist. To be able to go do that event is great. And
to meet so many other like-minded individuals, and to see, I loved it. It was probably the biggest thing I've ever done as a visual artist. I've danced in Chicago and New York, but when it comes to painting, it's very much small. Like, I claim to be a novice and an amateur, but I will never stop. So being there with people who actually know how to use a spray paint can...
Oh, the caliber of talent there is
amazing. Oh my gosh. It was so inspiring. And then everybody was so kind, and again, we were thrown a huge curveball. So we went, like, I think we did about 9 hours of straight painting right when we got there, and we all kind of had that moment of curveball's been thrown. We don't really have a choice. We just go. Mary had an idea, and she was like, I just wanted to be colorful at this point, and I was like, cool. Got you. Me, Mary, and Vanity threw down. Mary's boyfriend, Alex, was our Instagram husband, so he did a great job.
Yeah, there were plenty of great pictures of y'all doing the thing from the weekend.
Oh, yeah. It was awesome. Hearing everybody, because, again, music, I just work so well with music. When I would take a minute to step away from the piece so I wouldn't get too stressed out about it and just wander around and look at other people's art, one of my favorite things was listening to how different each individual artist, their soundtrack was. Yeah. And how a lot of times it actually looked like their art. And I thought that was fascinating. The people listening to Elton John, their painting looked like they listened to Elton John. Yeah. Even though it was this graffiti mural thing.
But the feel,
I was like, yeah, that's Elton John. And there was another wall about 4 or 5 away from us, and they were just banging out EDM bangers left and right. Too poppy for my personal taste, but, like, respect. And it was pink, blue, colorful, and I was like, yeah, no, that is dance pop.
Makes sense.
That makes so much sense in my head. So that was a little moment for me that I loved, just watching people work to the soundtrack that they chose to work to. Even if it was something that they just had on for background noise and something they weren't paying attention to. That's still a very subconscious decision.
Oh yeah, for sure.
For sure.
I was walking to my wall after lunch Saturday. I had to go down to the car and make myself a sandwich or whatever. But I was walking back up, and one of the people painting the wall and their friends were just like chilling in the grass behind the wall, you know, watching them paint. And they had More Bounce to the Ounce playing. And I was just like, yes, funk music is what I needed to hear today. Baby, let's go. I'm ready. So I went over there and painted jellyfish.
Really awesome jellyfish. They look like they're swimming in water, but from afar, that piece is different from up close.
Oh, yeah.
It's same with ours. When you get up close to ours, it's like, whatever. But from afar, when the light hits our little weird abstract cube, it's so good.
Well, that's in a weird spot next to the parking lot too, which is great as a visual spot. But the gap in the trees make the sun funny.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. And we had to work for that because the sun would change because it was coming through the trees. Mm-hmm. So when we got there, I got there at 10. The rest of the group got there around 11, and about 11:15, like painting smocks on, going hard. The sun shifted. And we were in direct, immediate sunlight at the beginning.
Yeah. And it's on half of the thing, too. It's only on two sides, at least.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And each different time of the day.
Yeah.
You never got, like, the full actual piece in sunlight, in direct light. So it was fun and interesting, and it was definitely a curveball. But it was great. But I love the jellyfish, because I first found it on the hill. Because we were down by the parking lot, and then I went up the hill, and then I went down.
Yeah.
So while I was up on the hill looking at other people's art, I looked down and I was like, ooh. It looks like there's some light up jellyfish down there. I'm going to go check out that piece.
That's exactly.
And the little, on the tentacles, the little dots.
Yeah.
Brilliant. Because from afar, in the sunlight, it literally looks like glowing jellyfish.
Good.
So
That's
good. I loved that piece. Love. Is it still there? Has it been painted over?
I haven't been back since.
Okay.
I assume somebody's done something to it just because it's in public.
Mm-hmm.
But the first piece I did out there, that was my third event, first of all. Super happy to go back and do the thing. So shout out Kansas and everybody involved.
Walls Mural Art Park, Waverly, Tennessee. If you don't know it, you should.
Yeah, for sure. Super good talent goes there, and they let us go there sometimes.
And also, if you're an artist, you can apply for it. And I don't know if I should announce this, but I'm going to. They will sell Cobra paint at value.
Yeah, at the event.
It's incredible. Like the amount of product I got for the price I paid, and then I got free product just for being there as an artist. So. Huge shout out to them and everything that they do. Waverly, Tennessee, Walls Mural Art Park. It's fantastic. Kansas, and there's another person.
Never Extinct.
Never Extinct, yes, who's painting a great Billie Holiday mural right now in Indiana?
Yeah, I think so.
Indiana? Yeah, so...
Said he had to drive that diesel lift down the street for half a mile. Yeah, that's fine.
The talent that goes... And the park is open pretty much 24/7 as far as I know, right?
Yeah, so, it's as long as the art's been up 30 days, you can do whatever on any wall at your leisure, pretty much. It's open from dawn till dusk, so... And
it's awesome. The amount of talent that happens... My mind was blown. I felt like a very small little tadpole in an ocean.
Yeah, there's definitely some artists there that lay down some work that is worthy of the word awe and spectacle.
Yes.
So I very much... It's hard to get away from your wall because you're so into your shit when you're doing your thing.
Yep. And you're so excited about it.
And I think honestly that's the worst thing is like you have to go paint your fucking wall.
Yeah.
But no, I can't walk around. I can't walk around.
I can't walk around. I have to focus. I only have 2 days.
Shake my fist at thee because I enjoy doing what I do, but damn it, I want to watch
other people. I think that's why Singing Circles, being there as a collective, having multiple painters there, it allowed each of us to say to the other two, no matter what the combination of the two, being like, hey, I need a minute.
I'm going to take a walk.
I'm going to go take a walk. I'm going to step away. One, I have to use the restroom. I need some water.
Yeah.
I need some outside because, again, throwing a huge curveball. So our whole idea didn't work, and I was like, I need to go see other things. I can't keep staring. Also, Mary asked me to paint the orange wall. I don't do orange.
Is that something you don't do?
I appreciate the color. I have nothing against orange, but I just don't gravitate towards it. It doesn't inspire me.
Okay.
Like I have some paintings that are fiery, where I've used orange, where sometimes orange is exactly the color that needs to happen right now.
Because it's a warm color. You said fire. Like you have to have it.
You have to have it. But she literally had me paint a whole wall orange, and I was like, I can't. I can't.
So that irony was not enjoyable whatsoever.
Not enjoyable at all. And I looked at her, and I had to honestly say, I was like, this color and I don't get along. And so she put me on the blue-green wall, and was like, yes!
Thank you.
Thank you.
So do you gravitate towards cool colors more than warm colors, or do you not have much of a bias outside of that?
I don't have much of a bias outside of... The red family is very hard for me to understand. Love red as itself, like burgundy, wine, cherry, brick, burnt amber.
Yeah.
Like, I love red. But when it comes to orange and yellow, I don't know. Something about these colors, they just don't excite me. Like, I love neon yellow and I love gold. Mm-hmm. But when it comes to just stark yellow or sunshine or pastel yellow, if it looks like it belongs on an Easter egg, I'm probably not going to be for it.
You know what? That's fair. And the funny thing about those kind of, like, I don't know, what do you call softer colors? They always remind me of like of powdery textures. So
yes.
It's just like I don't want that texture.
Okay, can we high five on that? Because it reminds me of like the grandma smell and the eggs and Easter and.
Yeah, there's just something like I feel it between my fingers, but you smell it. So it's just, I don't like this.
It's not. And I'm wearing pastel now, and I will always dye my hair pastel colors because I'm white.
Well, hair looks really good pastel. It does.
Yeah. But when it comes to painting with a pastel color, no. No, I either want it to be like stark neon or some weird dark variant of the color to where, like, I like contrast. So, like, if you just give me yellow and orange, I mean, technically I can always put blue next to yellow, but how easy is that? It's a contrasting color on the color wheel. We all know that.
Yeah, it's not. It's just, here you go.
Here you go. I did something contrasting. But when it comes to orange, I'm clueless. I'm like, if I'm not putting it next to red and yellow as a fiery purpose, because I do a lot of, witchy things too. Like, I like that. Like, a lot of my paintings are named off of, after gods and goddesses. I do sigil work. But if I'm not painting something that's fire, I don't use orange.
That's fair. You have one specific aesthetic in your
that's it.
And that's when I use it.
I have a crate of all my different, it's a color-coded shelving unit. So the pink shelf has my pinks. Right, great for my brain. The orange shelf has 2 bottles of paint. Two. Both of them are half empty.
So that you use them once?
Maybe twice.
Well, there you go.
Yeah, one's a neon orange and one's a burnt orange, which I like the burnt orange color. Yeah. I'm not mad at that because it's so much vibrant and almost close to red. But I have neon and a burnt orange, and that's literally investment. That's the investment I put in orange.
The color palette I've been working with a lot lately is missing a good red because of the set I bought. Not because a good red doesn't exist.
But the set you bought.
There are like 4 or 5 good reds in this entire set, but the ones I have aren't that color red. So it goes from like yellow, orange to this pinkish color, no red. And I'm just like, oh. So I have to fill it in, and I found an acceptable red for mixing with that color palette. So it's not bad. But if I had that red, I'd have the full like spectrum color palette and black.
Nice.
I like it a lot because it's super opaque with really thin brush strokes, and it's super pigmented, so it's super duper bright even when you're not looking at it under a black light. Shout out Rob Mack over in Australia making liquid light paint. It's good stuff. Yeah.
Send me those links.
It's good stuff. It's good stuff.
Also, do you know Culture Hustle?
Yes. Yeah.
What are your thoughts and opinions?
Okay.
Because I have the Black 3.0, and that shit is pretty legit.
So I've used Black 1 and 2. If we're going to talk about just the Black for a second, I haven't tried Black 3. I don't know why they need to make it smell good.
I don't
mind,
either.
but I don't think I would spend the time making it happen.
No, I feel like that's just one of those a company is trying to do
the quirky thing.
They have to do the quirky thing, and they have to make it customer service oriented to justify the price.
So I've never had a problem with their customer service. I've given them a little bit of feedback here and there. I told them they need to start sending the lit containers with some kind of paper cap in the lid to seal it. Because I got my package one time and there was powder all up in the lit glow powders. Love those. Side note, love those.
Noted. Cool.
But the lids in the threads of the screw would be filled with powder because they got shake up.
Yep.
And they didn't have like a paper seal. You know, like you open a lot of twist top small things, whatever. There's
a little paper seal. It's extra protection.
Foam to just take up the tolerance of the plastic that's not there. So I did that, and then they did that. I don't know if the timing matters, but it's something they realized, so they fixed it, and that was great. But the glow lit powders and pigments themselves, I have all of them. They work great. They're really finely ground. You can mix them into whatever the hell you want, and I do at my leisure, and it's great. There's some on your table, so that's what I use on the table. So you'll see.
Nice. I was about to.
Yeah, go ahead.
Okay, cool.
I'll hit the pause button. All right, so where were we?
But I wanted to ask, so with the table, because I got it, once you posted, I knew I immediately wanted it. And that's when I was like, no, are you selling this? I want that table. And you're like, yeah, have it. So then after, I think it was the day after I bought it, you posted it. And then there was that little sneaky second photo of how it was light reactive. And I was like, shut the fuck up. And so looking at it, because I knew it wasn't glow in the dark paint, because glow in the dark paint's always very chartreuse green or yellow, and that's really all you get from those. But there's bright pinks and blues and all the colors come through. What was the product you used to get that, or is just Cobra paint that vibrant?
Cobra paint is that vibrant. Shout out Cobra.
Cobra!
That's actually the same paint I used at the art park. It's in the garage over here right now. I really, really like Cobra paint, specifically their fluorescents, because they're so densely pigmented.
They're gorgeous.
You can cover in one slap of the nozzle, and it's great. We are not sponsored by Cobra. This is the truth as a consumer.
Just legit. And the way their paint sticks to a product. Like, this is not a spray paint you can spray and it's gonna drip. It's not gonna.
Unless you wanted to.
Unless you wanted to, but then you even still have to use more paint than you think you're going to have to.
Yeah, it sticks.
It's like, I didn't know Cobra paint until the art park.
Yeah, that's the first time I ever used it too.
Mind blown. And I was actually the only painter that showed up on the second day. So I only had the product I had to finish this mural. And I went up to the people and I was like, hey, look, I understand that like we all got like 3 or 2 or 4 cans based off of our wall, but can I buy it? And they're like, yeah, it's at
whatever the price.
Whatever the price is. I was like, okay, cool. So I grabbed 4 or 5 cans. They're like, it's like $12. Excuse me?
Yes.
Hold on, I'll be back. And so I ended up just completely just shopping. I think I spent about $40 on Cobra paint that day and walked away with everything. Their fluorescent red,
so good.
It completely changed our mural, because we had realized that one of our sides, like the red was not. We had brought in some purple and we had some red, but the red was very normal red, and it wasn't working with the purple. It didn't pop, and it didn't help the purple, and the purple didn't help the red. And so we got the fluorescent red, and Mary did like one streak, and everybody went ooh.
Yeah.
Sorry, tangent on Cobra paint.
Yeah, it's good stuff. I've purchased cans of Cobra every time I've been to Art Park because it's super great deal to grab while you're there, and they work really well. I enjoy using them on my wall. The fluorescents, like I said, they're so densely pigmented. I really don't have to worry about what I'm trying to cover. I don't have to worry about trying to do that line the exact same thing twice. Like, I don't, and it makes my workflow so much nicer and more convenient because it is so densely pigmented. Like, I give a couple little tiny sprays on the side of the wall the first few times I use the can just to make sure I'm not spraying clear gunk,
Yep.
And then once the pigment starts coming in and it's mixed well, then you're good to go. Like, keep it moving, and you're going to cover what you want to cover.
Mm-hmm. Just such good quality paint.
Yeah.
And the colors, even beyond the fluorescence, like I have a couple greens that I've never been able to find that shade of green in a spray paint before.
Yeah, they have a nice color catalog for sure.
It's insane. And I love the way that they're jokey about their color names too.
Yeah.
Like this
Lava red.
Lava red. You know, they'll have a paint called fluorescent red, but then they'll also have one called raspberry. When you look at it and you're like, what is this interesting hybrid of pink and red? Raspberry's perfect, actually.
Yeah. The small outlet to that sense of humor is really nice. I like the way the cans look. They're kind of cool. This year's cans, or whatever it happened to be, was really neat. The color representation on top of the can is also super accurate.
Very. And
So
I
cool.
think that's a very hard thing to find within paint in general, no matter what medium the paint is, acrylic, oil, spray. Actually having the color on the can, bottle, whatever it may be, actually matching what comes out of it doesn't usually happen. Or
it's close,
or
but it never...
It's close, but it's never really... Or you have to wait like 30 minutes for it to dry to become that color. So there's that 30 minute of like stress.
Yeah.
Of like, wait... But no, like one spray and you can put that can right up to it and perfect match.
Yeah.
So weird, fascinating, and we are not sponsored by Cobra.
No. So often when I'm at the art park, I've done three. Like I said, I've done 3 walls. The last one I used the least amount of neon stuff I have at any one so far. So
Wait, the jellyfish was the least neon?
No, the one before it.
Oh, okay, sorry.
It was like this dude jumping off this mountaintop into a portal in space kind of thing, and I had a really dark, like blue and purple and speckledy background, and that was inside the portal essentially. And then the portal was shooting lightning that was neon pink and neon green, and everything else was really dark and really red and black and brown and gross. You know, it just looked like hell essentially. So he's jumping through the portal. By God, I'm getting out of here. But even on top of those really like heavy colors, like the reds and the browns and the blacks, it still covered really, really well. So I'll be done talking about Cobra paint now.
At some point.
I've been a big fan of all 3 pieces that I've painted at the art park, and they've done massive. They've helped out the artists that come to the art park with good pigment and good paint. So they've had a hand in everything I've done there that I feel good about.
They're truly on our side. And like even looking at Cobra's Instagram, like they are on the artist side. Like they created the product for us.
Yeah, for sure.
And I think even in the little jokey personality, it comes off like this is for artists. Because there was another brand of artist spray paint that you run into a lot. I can't remember it. I can see the can in my head, but I can't remember the name. But it was always so lackluster. The one I used, I would much rather use the Rust-Oleum than their artist spray paint. And then I found Cobra and I was like, this.
Yeah, I will use Cobra and Montana interchangeably.
Montana.
Yeah.
That's what it was. I think maybe just because of my color palette, because I like such bright neons, and when it comes to neon spray paint, typically it's so liquidy.
Yeah, it's very thin, very thinly pigmented, not very dense pigments.
But Cobra will give you the brightest neon in your face pink, and it is thick on the canvas, on the wall, and it doesn't lose the color.
And I usually have black backgrounds on my stuff at the park too, so the contrast, I feel like you can be on top of the hill, and if I have a wall facing the top of the hill, you're going to see it because it's just so bright. Even in the evening after the sun goes over the ridge there and it's shady.
Sunset at the Walls Art Park.
Good stuff.
Good stuff. There's the one huge one that's like seems to be in like bright direct sunlight at all times. I feel like that wall probably whoever that was adorable.
Dog coming in clutch with the mad cuddles once again.
Mad cuddles from the pups. Yep. And it's one I would just be terrified to paint it as a painter.
Oh man, it's like 16 by 72 or whatever.
It's insane, but also because it's in so much direct sunlight,
all the time.
The drying aspect has to be so much sped up and like. What?
It's a challenge for sure, but
so I feel like it's the one wall that doesn't get the benefit of the sunset glow.
Yeah, because it's up on the ridge ish, and then it gets shaded the fastest. The most and the fastest, yeah, for sure.
What?
She might use her teeth. Not in a bad way, though.
That's fine. Nibble, nibble. I've had dogs growing up my whole life, so I'm just
cool.
like, yeah, you can come even closer if you want pups.
She's usually the one guest that isn't very vocal on the show. She'll hop in.
But a constant presence.
Oh yeah, I can't record a podcast in my super secret studio without my dog just being like, "Hey, what's up, everybody? What's going on? You gonna pet me? You gonna pet me? Hey, let's do this."
That's all Peppy.
Yeah. Dog.
But I'm really excited for the fall paint jam.
The fall jam is my favorite of the three because the weather is the most cooperative.
You're not dying.
The spring is hot, and then it's cold, and then the summer is hot, and then it's hot, and then the fall one is like that third bowl
Perfection.
of porridge. Yeah, it's
The third bowl of porridge. Yep.
Yeah, it's the third bowl of porridge. That was actually the first one I did, I think, and I was like, hell yeah, I gotta come back and do this. And then I did the spring. I was like, weather, and then this summer one, I was like, damn, I sweat the whole time.
Yeah. So this summer was the first time I did it, and I think, well, it's the first time we all did it.
The weather was nice, but it was hot as shit.
It was hot as shit, man. I kind of went in just because I'm also a dancer and a body paint model for this art collective. I was like, okay, I'm gonna be a little bit more of a performance painter, like, networking. I'm gonna apply that, and so I didn't wear a lot of clothes. But I just literally threw on a painter smock with no shirt and just, I think, the same pair of shorts. You can see the paint on them. Just everything.
I have one pair of shorts I wear to the art park, and I wore them to work the other day. And my coworker was giving me shit about the paint on my shorts because we don't paint things at work. He's like, "You look like you done made a mess," and I'm just like, "Nah, man, these are the shorts I paint in at the place."
Yep, but I was there again. I got there at 10 o'clock, and by 10:30, I was like, whew, "Yeah, I'm not wearing a shirt today."
Yeah,
like, I had it in my mind that I was going to be a little bit more like, I'm going to dance around, like do all that because it's part of what I do for the collective. But getting there, I was like, yeah, no, this is going to be shirtless.
I'm pretty sure I wore a tank top all day. I'm pretty sure.
So hot.
Well, I got there Friday night and scraped my wall, and that took me 2.5 hours.
You full on scraped it?
Oh yeah.
Oh,
I mean, as best I could.
We had some trouble areas that needed to be sanded down and scraped out, but we just went full on blast that thing with color.
There were bubbles and water peeling the paint off the surface, so I had to.
You had to.
Yeah, I had to. But it was no big deal because the small crew I had with me did just fine. Yeah.
How many people did you have with you?
I had my son and my partner at the time.
Okay.
Yeah.
Cool. Because I remember seeing and meeting them, but I was like, I don't remember. Did you have more? No,
just those two. And they did great. But 2.5 hours of scraping Friday night from like 7 to 9:30 till the sun went down. We scraped a lot of that wall.
Yeah.
And I hated to scrape that piece off the wall because it was a great empowerment piece, Black Lives Matter piece.
Yeah, you posted on your Instagram and I saw it and I would have been, I remember looking at it being like, I would have struggled with that moment too.
And, it was a great piece, and it presented a really tense moment in history. It was a great reflection of modern times. So I was just like, damn, like, it's one of the common courtesy things to post the wall before you touch it. So I was just like, yep, taking the picture, but I gotta scrape the wall. And it had water damage and stuff under the paint, so like, I had
water
to do
damage.
Had to do it. It was peeling up and bubbling and like cracked and leaking and stuff from water, so.
See, thankfully ours wasn't bubbling. Bubbling, yeah.
Yeah, once you could like poke a pimple and water squirt out the bottom, you
gotta do something.
Yeah. You gotta do something about that.
I think ours was just so dried out.
Yours is in the sun all the time.
All the time. And we had a huge crack, which actually, to go back to Culture Hustle, not to try to promote them, they don't sponsor this either. But I brought that Black 3.0, and on one side of our walls, we just had this huge crack. And so that's where we put our logo.
Yeah.
Because when you step back from it, that black paint works so well and just kind of looks like a black hole. The actual black hole of the crack in our painting, it looks the same. So that little logo with that particular paint made the crack a part of the piece.
There you go.
So it was fascinating because Mary was like, I want to put a logo. And I was like, ding, 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 boom.
Contrast.
Do it right here. Do it right here. Use that as your, like, that's the line on the paper.
Yeah,
you're writing the name on.
The area.
And her boyfriend was listening to music and eating a sandwich back further away from the piece because he was enjoying watching the whole thing, and I went up to him and I was like, "Can you tell the difference between the hole and the paint?" He goes, "No." I was like, "Right."
Yeah, that I really like Black 1 and 2. Black 3 I've yet to play with, but if it's just... What does it smell like?
It actually doesn't have a scent.
What?
When I got the product, they were like, "We made sure it smelled good," and I was like, "Cool." I hate scented things. I don't even like scented candles outside of lavender, but it doesn't really have a scent.
I think
the scenting might have just been neutralizing the chemical smell.
Maybe. The first one sort of smelled like coffee, and I think the second one smelled like black cherries. Yeah, it's funny.
Why?
I think that's just...
Their yellow apparently smells like banana. But I watched a YouTube review of it, and the guy was like, "It does not smell like banana." He said it smells like the little tart candy banana.
But not an actual
banana.
Oh, man.
Don't make scented paints. It's not necessary.
Right, but it's
actually,
funny,
if you make paint and you're listening to this, please don't make scented paints. If you want to hide the chemical smell, I appreciate that. But just adding chemicals to make a paint smell, I don't. Give me the color and focus on the quality of the work. Don't make it smell like not. Thank you for thinking about my senses, but
I don't need it.
I don't need it.
Yeah, I feel like that's the way you make scratch and sniff markers, even though it's or scratch and sniff stickers.
Are you just trying to get kids high?
Yes, kids, huff the acrylic paint.
Huff it.
Huff it.
It smells like bubble gum. You're gonna want it.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. Just don't eat the paint chips. That's where people really get in trouble.
Yeah.
The paint chips are bad.
Yeah. I know it smells like blackberry, but it doesn't taste like blackberry.
No.
It might kill you too.
Yeah, don't do that.
Don't do that. Especially if it actually has cardamom in it.
Oh, also, I often joke.
Cardamom? That's a spice.
Yeah.
Cadmium.
Yes.
Cadmium. Which Culture Hustle, don't let me have that. Correct me. I tend to speak quicker than I think, so correct me. But actually, Culture Hustle puts cadmium in their red paint, which is why it's so beautiful.
Yeah.
But they also put the warning, so don't lick the paint.
Yeah. Don't eat this. We know it looks good.
We know it looks good, but nobody should be licking walls.
The snozberries taste like snozberries. I have a lot of glow-in-the-dark products in my house. Pigments, powders, paints, whatever. It really, really cracks me up when I have the ability to tell someone I live in a nuclear environment. Like the radiation and the glow-in-the-dark. It cracks me up so much. And it's such a small thing to exaggerate so large to such a degree, but it's true.
It's true. You're not incorrect.
But it's not as fantastic as it seems in the scale of danger.
But when you add in the glowing effect, yeah, it is.
Wait, you're right. Who am I to disagree? This shit's cool as hell, and you know what?
It's cool as shit.
It's dangerous. That's why it's cooler, because it's dangerous.
Yep.
Yeah. So I have all kinds of that stuff, and the people are just like, "Well, where do you keep all your paints?" I was like, "On a shelf," and they all glow. Like, it's dangerous.
Yeah. But as long as I keep them there, and I don't eat it or ingest it or huff it,
right?
We're fine.
Man, if I snorted some lit glow paint.
Snort some glit.
Yeah,
everybody should snort some glitter from time to time.
Yeah, but the glow powder we've previously mentioned, I mean, I'd imagine one's boogers and loogies would glow in the dark.
I would hope.
I would be really disappointed if they didn't. I'll just say that.
Right? Extremely disappointed. Well, I had
to put that out there.
Yeah, no, I'm happy you did, because I'm going to run with that. Using spray paint so much, it always cracks me up. Allergy season, summer, in the South, whatever, we all have to blow our nose every time.
Yep.
Every now and then.
Mm-hmm.
It's not COVID, just pollen in the air. So you blow your nose, and all of a sudden you're blowing out, rainbow colors.
Yes.
And it's one of those, I think it's so fascinating, because then you're like, whoa, I just blew out a rainbow, but then you're like, wait.
That was in my nose.
Maybe I should not go back and paint for a minute, because I just blew out chemicals.
Yeah, I mean, I don't paint with a respirator or a N95 mask, which I probably should. Full disclosure, I really probably should.
I've thought about it for the fall. Just think, because I don't know if Mary's going to want to return yet. I know she's talked about it, but I don't know her times, because I know she's doing a lot of traveling. So I'm returning either way, either with Seeing Circles which I would prefer to do, just because I love the collaborative aspect of being part of the collective. But either way, if we don't go back as a collective, I'm going back as a single artist, and I'll probably just do some spacey galaxy things. I'm going to get a mask for that.
Yeah.
In my own studio time with the open windows and the fans on, like, I don't worry about it too much. But I still blow out rainbows.
Yeah. I just feel like sometimes I know what I'm painting, and I know how much aerosol I'm putting into the air, and I know where the wind is. Mm-hmm. So it's not like I feel like I'm going to constantly be in the direct
wind?
stream. Yeah.
I love using the wind is my second painter.
You can't ignore it.
No.
Like, if you're painting outside, you have to be aware all the time of where that's at, because if you literally cannot do certain things with a spray can if it's windy.
If it's windy.
You
like,
literally
it's not
cannot.
Happening.
If you're not trying to draw a hard line in the wind, you're not going to make it happen usually.
Yeah. But also at the same time, because a lot of my stuff is very spacey, like I will
use that to your advantage.
Use the wind to my advantage, where I'll spray into the wind and have it usually for the bottles, just because it's outside spray paint and that curvature allows that to happen. Some of my best Galaxy bottles, I don't even want to claim I painted. The wind painted it.
Yeah.
I just sprayed the right direction, which again means I did it. But yeah, no, the wind, love working with the wind.
It can come in handy. It's just that in that particular piece, the jellyfish, it was not my friend because of the gradient effects I had to employ for the.
And you were not and I'm sure because of where that piece was, there was probably wind changing directions at all times because of the trees. It
was workable for sure, but it wasn't the most convenient. Like, I really had to wait for the wind to not. I mean, I could paint just fine all day, but there were moments where I was just like, yeah, the treetops are moving a lot right now, and I can't spray a nice semi-translucent gradient across this thing until the wind's not moving.
The wind calms down.
Yeah. And that was probably the only weather hindrance of the whole thing. Like, it got a little windy, you know? Mm. Oh no.
Oh no.
It got a little windy.
Yep. Ours, again, just being in full blast. The sun was our issue.
Yeah.
I wish we had had more wind. Because we didn't. It was windy that day, but it was, we were out in the open, blasted by the sun, so the wind for us was only going like one direction. And it was on my wall, which I appreciated, but we were in such strong heat all day. Like, eventually our spray paint can stopped working. Not stopped working, but like the paint just got so liquidy and hot that it was just one of those like, all right, we're going to acrylics. Which is fine. Everything worked out, but like nature always... There's always a natural thing that's going to affect what your painting actually turns into.
Yeah.
Whether it's the environment of the inside you're painting in, or the wind, or the sun, or what... Did you leave your paint outside? Did you leave your paint in the refrigerator? I don't know who you are. Yep. I'm struggling right now. I haven't created it in a new piece in a hot minute because my studio is the garage. Mm-hmm. And it's been like 92 degrees for the past 5 days. All of my paint is like water.
Yeah.
And I've moved it inside, but it's like taking time to get back there, and I have to like shake it and make sure things are mixing. But so like I can't. I'm like, damn.
Yeah.
Tennessee heat, man.
Yeah. It's a thing. That's why I like the fall show. So it's a little more workable.
Well, Tennessee in the fall is beautiful.
Yeah.
Because it's still nice and comfortably warm, but it's not as humid, and it's not 92 degrees. It's 82. And sunny. And slightly windy.
Yeah.
With no humidity. It's perfection. And have you ever spent a lot of time in Nashville?
Nashville? No, I have not spent a lot of time in Nashville. I have spent a lot of time in Waverly over the years outside of the art park shenanigans. And that's kind of cool for me, Waverly as well. Like, oh, there's this thing. Like, I did a lot of growing up there with parents, friends, and summer vacations and stuff. So, like, I'm connected to the town, and now I'm connected to the art park, which is really cool.
That's awesome.
So, yeah, that's about that experience I have in that region of the state. I was born in East Tennessee, and I've lived in Knoxville for about a decade now, so I've lived on the East End the whole time.
Word. You should definitely check out a concert during the fall in Nashville. an outdoor concert in
Yeah.
Nashville during the fall, most pre-COVID might have changed how this algorithm I've discovered is going to go. So many tours happen in the fall. You know, they say summer tour, but it's like the end of summer.
Right.
Winter tour, but it's like, not really. Nashville goes insane during the fall. Outdoor concerts, like Cannery Row, Mercy Lounge, the East Room, like all these places are just like tour, concert, show. And it's so comfortable that it just doesn't stop for like 2 months. It's insane.
Nice.
So if you ever have like a weekend where you happen to not have to do anything, go to Nashville. Don't even buy tickets. Just like get to
Just
Nashville, show up, you will find a show. And yeah, Music City, man. During the fall, summer it's way too hot. Winter they try too hard and it's cold and nobody wants to go out because it's rainy and it's gray because it's a Tennessee winter.
Right.
But fall time in Nashville,
Pretty dope.
dope. So good. It's everybody's out on the patio more so than it was in the summer because nobody's like sweating through their
Right.
shit anymore. Concerts are more. There's just more. Fall time in Nashville, primo.
Solid. So did you grow up in Nashville?
I did. My family moved there when I was 2, so I claim to be a Nashville native even though I wasn't born there. I was 2.
Right.
But then I did almost 7 years in Dallas, and I just moved back in 2019, November, right before COVID hit.
Just in time for all the shit.
Yeah, it was great.
Perfect.
I actually had 3 art shows lined up because of the Raw show I did. I'd hit that point of ignition, inspiration. I'm moving back home to Nashville to help out my parents with their stuff and save money so I can get rid of my student loan, but I'm going to do all my artsy things and collect my stuff. I have time. COVID. I was like, no. So that's not happening.
Yeah, well since I normally ask, like, so I started this podcast in December 2019, I guess, and that's when I recorded my first episode, and I'd done a couple others, and then COVID was a thing, but it wasn't, like, gripping the United States yet, so I was just like, alright, well, I'm going to start this thing and see what happens with this stuff. And then as soon as cities started locking down all over the country, I was just like, alright, this is serious business. I'm going to use this to get these conversations out to people so they can hopefully discover new artists.
Yeah.
And because people listen to podcasts all the time, so why not one about this or this one in particular? So I was just like, I'll sit down and have cool conversations with cats that make art or do something creative or have some creative role in whatever thing they can control and see what happens. And I think this one's going to be episode 19, and I feel really good about doing more episodes than there are months in the year, and I hope some people out there actually discover some of their new favorite artists via the show. But that separation of social interaction was one of the reasons I decided to play with this format of expression.
Yeah. Oh, well, thank you. Because when you sent me the link, I looked at all the episodes, and I've listened to a couple of them, so I could just mentally prepare myself for the expectations. But I definitely have a working list of all the artists you've talked to, and I'm going to go, like, look them up. And because I was listening to Summer Fuss earlier today.
Yeah.
I listened to the most recent 3 just so I can get kind of a grip of what could do, and I was like, speak to the mic. I was like, okay, be aware of the mic. Just, I have one of those. My dance training made me be, like, when I text you, I was like, I'm not 10 minutes early, I'm freaking out. My dance training was very strict, very, very severe. Our artistic director, it was his way or the highway, and it was not really the greatest environment to be in, even though the other professors helped, and they were great. Shout out to my professors at MTSU, other than the one y'all know who I'm talking about. But I was ingrained to be professional. So when you were like, being a podcast, I was like, awesome. I'm going to listen to all of it.
Yeah, so the setup we have now with this particular microphone is kind of how I'm trying to take that particular aspect of things out of people's hands, just to make it a little easier on everybody just to focus on conversation, not conversation and speaking into the microphone. So we'll see how this goes, because this is the first time I've recorded on this particular microphone for the podcast. So it's all a living experiment.
It's all a living experiment. We're all artists just making art.
Yeah, I feel as if the conversation getting out there is a little more important than, it being of pristine audio quality, even if that's a very cross opinion. That's where I'm at right now.
No, I fully agree. The conversation's the point.
Yeah.
Everything else is just glitter.
Just it's a sugar on top, right? But I do not wish to produce an unpleasurable listening experience. It's just that this particular space is not particularly optimized for this activity, and that's in progress. And so is finding the hardware combinations of such things are in progress, and luckily the hardware and software side beyond those things is pretty dialed in. So it's just more of the physicality of the hardware in the space that's really the issue now. And, even that's just one aspect, the context of the creative output that is a digital file called a podcast. Like you were talking about lighting design, stage design, color theory. That's the 1 degree removed from the actual thing, or 3 degrees removed from the actual thing. I've never claimed to be knowledgeable about these things, but I'm in it, I'm doing it, I'm using the tools trying to make the thing happen.
And the try is what matters. Like,
I would like to think so.
The try is definitely what matters, or at least in my opinion in this world. Like, if you try, success or failure doesn't matter because you tried. So as far as I'm concerned, you trying, whether your end product actually was your end product, you tried, which means you succeeded.
In that way, you did not fail, but
you
have a result.
You have a result and you tried your best. And, it's the way like what we were talking about, having art pieces that were just like, well, that's messed up. I tried. I don't look at it as a complete failure. It's just one of those like, okay, that was a lesson.
Yeah.
I learned, yes, heat and temperature and my paint affect each other. This color does not go well with this color. I thought it would because of the color wheel, but then I did it in real life and I was like, nope. Or, I was trying too hard that one day. If you try, I think no matter how the product ends at the end of the day, if you put in your best effort, that's really what matters. You cared, you tried, you worked.
Yeah. You sat the task in front of yourself, you executed. Results may vary, and should be almost universally acceptable.
It should be. I think what should not be acceptable is the way an individual will look at it. More so in their own personal way. Like, if I fuck up a painting, and I'm, like, mad at myself, or I blame the paint, or if I blame the wind, or if I blame the mosquito that landed in my paint.
I'm blaming the mosquito.
The mosquito was pretty fucking rude. Like, did you have to fly and land in the center of the painting?
Did not.
No, you could have veered off to the side.
Literally anywhere else.
The center? Rude. Like, that was a bitch move, mosquito. But, humor aside, if you sit there and you blame outside things for the failure loose term, failure, that you did, you're not accepting the lesson, which means you will most likely recreate this same situation.
This mistake will happen again.
This mistake will happen again because you didn't look at it as just a simple mistake, you looked at it as a failure. You didn't take a lesson from it, you took an emotional beating from it.
Yeah.
No, accept it, move on, learn a lesson, be better.
Yeah.
As humans, it's what we're all supposed to do. Easier said than done,
always.
Clearly. But it's like, nah, I love being corrected. Like, I said cardamom instead of cadmium.
I think people who enjoy learning, from my own experience and the way my brain works, I really don't get upset too often when I'm wrong or have a different opinion. I honestly try my mental and emotional best to see it as an opportunity to learn. Mm-hmm. Because if you don't do that, you're kind of wasting some of your time and energy by not realizing the full context of what you were involved in some form or fashion.
Exactly. Not only that, but you're also limiting yourself to what you could be knowledge-wise. You're limiting yourself to more information, more knowledge, more growth. And again, it's easier said than done. I don't like when people say I'm wrong when I know I'm right. That will definitely get a reaction from me. There was one time I was quoting a Buffy the Vampire Slayer episode, and somebody was like, that wasn't the quote, and I was like, like legit tattooed on me. I'm pretty sure. And they're like,
It's
no,
it's right here.
no,
Like,
that. Oh, sorry, it wasn't the quote. It was the actress, because it was actually Amy Adams. Amy Adams guest starred in Buffy the Vampire Slayer, and one of my friends was like, it's not the same actress. I was like,
bitch.
I can literally pull up Internet Movie Database, which will prove me right, but that's petty.
I
But,
do
like,
it.
I was so close. I left the conversation because I love learning, and I looked at that moment. I was like, at this point, it's for my own self-indulgence. I'm not teaching you anything. I'm just proving myself right.
Yeah.
I don't need to do that on a consistent basis.
Felt good then.
But I will say, as much as I love being told I'm incorrect and shown how to do something right, if I am correct, don't push.
Come at me.
Don't come at me.
Yeah, and it's funny too because it's so being right or correct is so subjective to whatever's happening in the moment to the person
And the way they think about the subject as well.
Yeah, it's hard for somebody else to come in and say, hey, this, and this, like 98% of the time.
But when it was Amy Adams was never in Buffy the Vampire Slayer, I'm like, here's the episode, season 5, episode. I'm not that much of a Buffy nerd, like I don't know. But, you know, season 5, episode 17, it was her fam, blah, 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 the family with Amber. Like, I can literally tell you and pull up websites. And you're going to fight me? That's the thing. And so when other people refuse to be wrong, because I'll be wrong, but it's when another person is refusing to accept the fact that I know something and I can teach them something, and they refuse to accept that, then all of a sudden, which is my issue, I shouldn't be angry about that. I should just move on. But I'm like, no. I'm trying to help you. Not help you because it's just Buffy the Vampire Slayer. Nobody really needs that information.
But
I'm
I care, so let me tell you.
I care. It wasn't that actress. It was Amy Adams. Well, Amy Adams never did a TV series. Yeah. Everybody starts somewhere, bro.
That's... I hate
Everybody starts somewhere.
Yeah, I hate being corrected when I'm already correct. It's a pain in the dick.
Yeah, and just one of those, and it's one of those, like, the other person clearly doesn't have a dick. Maybe that might be rude on a podcast to say, but, like, bro, comment the fuck down. Why are you fighting? Look at Google it. I'm not trying to get into a fight about Buffy the Vampire Slayer, but you won't let it go, and I'm not going to let it go because I'm right.
You're still the only one making a big deal about
But you're
this.
the one making a big... Google it, motherfucker.
Yeah.
But now you're getting under my skin, and now, okay, now...
I could have walked away for you, now I walk
Ratchet
away for
Matthew's
me.
gonna come out.
Like, this is when I walk away from me so you can continue living.
But it's also one of those, like, the Singing Circles Art Collective, we did a raffle as a fundraiser with my bottles.
Yeah.
And I dropped off a bunch of bottles at Mary's house because she was the one controlling it. Very different bottles. I wanted to give her kind of just a grasp of all the things I could do. Some Galaxy, some Splatter, some Dry Brush, like just things, different colors, muted, bright, black, white. Gave her the thing. She sent back 3 and was like, I don't think these are good enough. And not to be rude, because she was really concerned about saying that. She was like, I feel like I can say this to you, but I feel like these 3 need to get worked on. And I was like, word? Why? And she said 2 were just dull. And I was like, well, that was the point. They're very metallic, and they are. They're very metallic. They look rusty. And I was like, okay, actually, that's a compliment. And there was this one bottle I tried to do a dry brushing kind of technique to blend 3 colors, and it didn't work out. And I know that. And she called me out, and I was like, thanks. She's like, if you try this technique, and she showed me a brush technique, and I was like,
that's what I needed.
That's what I needed. I didn't know that. And so, like, as much as I always like to defend myself when I know I'm correct me.
Yeah.
I'm open to being wrong. I'm open to being in the gray zone, not wrong or right, but maybe there's a better way to do it. Or maybe I'm just completely off the rails and somebody needs to bring me back in and be like, whoa, dude.
I feel like I encounter the people most often that want to tell me what's wrong or right about the thing that I have in my head. Not like some generally socially acceptable opinion idea or opinion that we all are like aware of. No, it's like, no, dude, what you meant to do is, no, I did what I meant to do.
I did what I meant to do.
This thing. And people are like, no, that can't be it. I'm like, man, this is a picture I've seen in my head for 3 months. I'm pretty sure that's what it's supposed to be. Like, don't.
I got that more in the dance world. Because even though, like, things like, ballet is a very codified, technical...
Yes, very.
Very, you do it the way it's done. Why ballet is in French, well, it was codified in, like, I can't remember, but ballet was codified in French. So you can go take a ballet class in Russia, Japan, Argentina, Czechoslovakia, whatever, and it's going to be in French. So if you know the ballet words, you can take a ballet class anywhere. But that's also how strictly codified it is.
That's a good analogy.
And even though there's like Italian, like, Cecchi, there's a couple, there's Italian ballet masters, British ballet masters, French ballet masters, Russian ballet masters. And there's individual slight variations of the technique based off of each cultural whatever, but it's still the same thing.
Right.
And so I had that comment more when it came to dance. Like, your foot was not in the right place, or like your choreography was nice, but like blah 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 blah. It was some of those. I wasn't wrong.
It's just not what you're.
It just wasn't what you. Our artistic director was very much like I said earlier, like his way or the highway. So it was very much judgment on what we did based off of what he did. And other professors at MTSU, they were phenomenal, and so they kept me there and because they weren't that way. But I appreciated his assholery because it made me angry, and it made me fight more for my own individuality, because he wanted me to be one of his puppets, one of his creations. And I was like, I'm already created. I met you when I was 19, dude. Like, this ship's already fucking sailed. Like, I'm learning things because I'm 19 and I'm not fully who I am, just because none of us will ever fully be who we are until whatever anybody believes, until the day we die, or whatever. We're always growing. But that thought process of what you meant to do is not what you meant to do, for me, was only in dance. With painting, people seem to be like, oh, that looks like you. Dance people always wanted to say something. Your foot was 2 centimeters off to the right. Well,
I was on time.
I hit the rhythm, and my musicality was fine.
I've experienced a lot of live events. I used to work in a local civic coliseum and auditorium. So, dance moms and sports dads and all those things, like, I get it. I really do. I've been firsthand privy to all that commentary from that particular post in society.
A lot of people don't understand actually how difficult it is. Or, I think, never mind, I should take that back. I think most people have a working construct of how difficult actually dance is.
But the finesse of it.
But the finesse of it, and then everything else that happens backstage.
Because you don't just show up and dance.
No, you don't just show up and point your feet and call it good. Look where I can put my leg. No. It's technical, it's costume, it's makeup, it's lighting. Like, you missed your mark, you have to be 2 inches over here, you have to do this. And then there's the other people who are doing their jobs around you that you have to be conscious of as well. Yeah. It's a full working show. What are the lighting designers? What's the stage director doing? Who's the director? Who's the stage owner? Who's producing this show? Because I know I'm in this show, but what does he want? Because the costumes might not be what he wanted, and we don't know until we're showing up and performing. Yeah. So now,
your hands are tied in that scenario.
And also, actually, I think people look at things, especially ballet, and they know it's difficult, but I don't think they understand the pain. Like, I always tell people, don't fight a professional female ballet dancer. That bitch literally stands on her big toe bone. Yeah. Like, the point, the bone. There's no, like, ball of the foot in that point shoe. Mm-hmm. She is on her big toe bone. Smiling.
Yep.
Smiling.
Yeah, she has to.
While holding her other leg above her head. You want to mess with that one?
No.
Don't. Don't you piss her off. She will literally kick through your spine and smile.
Yeah, and smile. My sister did ballet a lot in high school, so I'm familiar with how absolutely ridiculous some of that is.
I'm sure she came home, like, bleeding and bruised, and you were just like, what happened? She was like, ballet.
And I would look the same after football practice. Like,
yeah. Yep, there's definitely a thing when it comes to, well, people expect, football players, rugby players, athletes to get banged up, but because dance looks so pretty, I don't think people actually get the
physicality,
gravity
yeah.
of it. There was a New York Times article that listed professional ballet dancers as one of the top 3 athletes in the world, physically and comparatively to other athletes. And I mentioned that to mentioned that to a person one time while I was at a bar, and they're like, well, what about wrestlers? I was like, I'm not trying to disrespect wrestlers because they are athletes, but look at compared to what wrestlers do, compared to what ballet dancers do, they're literally becoming pretzels while being able to at least lift 200 pounds with their feet, arms, legs, neck, chest. Like, no, I'm sorry, you can't compare a wrestler to the athleticism of a ballet dancer. Well, not because you shouldn't compare them, it's just because they're not comparable. They're 2 different aspects, they're 2 different journeys, 2 different pathways. So it's kind of like comparing Cardi B and Nicki Minaj. Why? Cardi B makes the type of music she makes, Nicki Minaj makes the type of music she makes. Why do we have to compare them? But if you actually want to, I can... my roommate in college was a Marine, and we did P90X.
Yeah.
I was overweight and 265 pounds at the time as a dancer. I outlasted the Marine. And that's not me bragging, that's just like dancers.
Yeah.
Dancers, man. Martha Graham called us God's athletes. And I think Martha Graham was always known for being very egotistical, and I think that is a very egotistical statement to say, but at the same time, dancers
got the stamina.
Dancers got the stamina, the strength, the flexibility, the agility, the music time, the color theory. Like, again, like I said earlier, like, I think my dance training, as much as it was grueling and intense and amazing, I would never leave that behind. Like, I don't dance now much, but I would never be where I am now as an artist if it wasn't for almost the trauma of dance training. Not necessarily that dance training was traumatic, but, pain. It was painful. Like, coming home every day starving and bruised and bleeding, and then having the artistic director tell you that you suck.
Yeah, and then you gotta go do it tomorrow.
Yeah, and then you have to go back to that same environment tomorrow, and the other professor was like, you didn't suck, you just need to correct your, hip placement. Thank you, Marcia. And then returning over and over and over and over again, you mentally go through some severe shit.
Yeah, there's a lot of fiery hoops to jump through.
Mm-hmm. And then just for the context of people listening, I'm 188 now. When I was a dancer, I was 260, so I was a biggin'. I was a big male dancer at 6'4".
Yeah.
So I wore it well, but I was not the typical ballet body.
Yeah, that's taught for a ballet dancer, just in general.
Yeah. Yeah, because most female ballet dancers, actually George Balanchine, he was the choreographer, director of ballet. Never mind. Please, if you're a professional dancer listening to this, understand it's been a long time since I've been in college. I think George Balanchine was part of the Ballet Russe, the New York Ballet. And so the whole stereotype of the skinny ballet, prima ballerina, scrawny, stick figure, anorexia only came about because George Balanchine was sexually attracted to the skinny girls. So, because of that, most professional ballet dancers who are women are below 5'10" and skinny scrawny because that was the culture that they were told they had to fit into. So most of the male ballet dancers are only 5'11", 6 foot, and skinny because they have to match.
Yeah, proportionality.
Proportionality in the show. And it actually does matter. It sounds kind of silly, but it does matter. So walking into a dance world at 6'4" and 250, 260 pounds, people looked at me different. Yeah. People expected things differently, and I looked at myself and expected things differently, and we're going off on a tangent. Trauma.
Is what
Anyways.
it is. Is what it is.
But trauma fuels better art, which is kind of fucked up to say.
Well, maybe then you could reframe it as experience.
Experience.
Makes better art.
That's what it should be, not trauma. I'm okay.
Experience. It feels good art.
Experience fuels good art. The good, the bad, the gray zone.
It falls all over the map.
Yep.
So we've touched on a lot of things I like to ask without me actually having to ask them, which is great because I feel like conversation.
I feel like I've been rambling.
No, it's fine. So another one of my favorite questions to ask people is, since you've mentioned Jackson Pollock here a time or two, what inspirations do you have as an artist? Maybe 2 or 3 if you can list them. And maybe in what way they sort of filter or distill into your work, if they do at all.
Such a fascinating question. I was waiting for it because I've been trying to figure out an answer to that question since we had. And other than Jackson Pollock, I don't think there's a lot of artists, like painters, who have truly influenced me. Like, I do love, I'm going to butcher his name, Harmonious Bach.
Harmonious Bosch?
Bosch,
Yeah.
Yes. The Hellscapes.
Yeah.
Oh, they're amazing.
Yes.
They fueled my choreography more than my painting, because all the choreography I did in college as a choreographer were all very demonic, dark, based off of like that Judeo-Christian mythology and demonology. So,
were you trying to piss people off or just trying to do fun?
No,
cool
I
stuff?
just really love horror films and dark shit and
Okay.
witchcraft. And despite how much I am a fucking neon rave kid, like, I really like dark stuff.
So that's the other side of your aesthetic.
That's the other side of my aesthetic. Like, I have skulls all over my house, but I paint them in neon, but it's still a skull.
Right.
You know, things like that. Kind of contrast, juxtaposition.
Yeah.
So Jackson Pollock has definitely influenced my canvas work, because when I look at his work, I'm like, no, people lost their mind over this, so I can just experiment with color and mean to do it and do it well, because it's fine. It's been done before. And so Jackson Pollock definitely works his way into my stuff. I think you can see the differences between the two of us because of my color choices and my background choices. And I don't like super weighted down splatter paintings. Like, I don't want there to be so much splatter that it's overwhelming. I want the colors to be understood.
Do you try to give them like some degree of neutral or negative space so everything's felt airy enough to like see everything?
Yes, exactly.
Okay.
I do have some pieces that are busier and some pieces that are lighter, but I always felt, as much as I am a fan of Jackson Pollock, his pieces would get very
busy.
Very busy. Very, very busy. And so that's probably where you can't look at my art and not see Pollock, but you can see where I'm not Pollock.
Yeah.
Other than that, I would probably have to say the DJ Pretty Lights has been more of an influence than most other painters, just because of his light shows at the shows I've been to.
There are a lot of good things to be said about Pretty Lights light shows.
Oh my gosh. I mean, he calls himself Pretty Lights. He definitely follows through on that.
Yeah, there's no
his light
falsehood.
shows mind-bending. Sober. Like, I've seen him sober, and I've seen him on tons of stuff. Like, the sober shows are my favorite, honestly, because even though I didn't get into that kind of heightened brain imaginative state that, you know, mushrooms or acid could do, I was still seeing a dope, brightly colorful, insanely choreographed light show. And those moments, Pretty Lights, I think, has it's been a couple years since I saw his last show. I mean, is he alive?
Yeah.
Okay, he hasn't OD'd yet?
No, still
okay,
kicking.
still kicking? Awesome.
Still kicking.
Still kicking. But his shows and the light shows that happened, I think, really changed my mind when it came to understanding color.
I feel as if I have a similar experience in that same sort of context with STS9 and their stage production and their lighting, because I've seen them like 4 times at the Tennessee Theater, and each time they have just upped the game so much. And they use they use lasers, and they use a lot of directional like beam lights and wash lights, and the combination of, they use some spinning and like rotating light patterns too, but not as much as me saying that implies. But just the ingenuity of the simpleness of the simplicity of these designs and how well they actually work and look in execution is so crazy.
It's brilliant. The first time I saw STS9 was my first Bonnaroo.
Hey.
And I had an issue with drugs as a kid, so I went sober for a long time. And then Bonnaroo at STS9 was the first time I decided, I was like, okay, well, I'm going to try. I'm in a better place. I'm going to do a little bit of Molly. I'm at Bonnaroo. I'm safe. I'm with my friends. I'm literally in a field. I'm not going anywhere.
Right.
And I don't want to do a lot of drugs, so I know I'm not... Okay.
Yeah.
I danced for 6 hours straight, And it was, in their light show, the wash lights are my favorite.
They're so
the
good.
way they use the wash lights. And there's this one moment, because they're a jam band, but they will get electronic. Iodo, I think, was from some of them. I could be wrong on that, but they definitely experiment with the EDM, the electronic, and the synth and the vibes side. Sure. But there was one moment where they were doing very acoustic stuff, and I'm having a grand old time at Bonnaroo. My friends have left, and they gave me their glow sticks to play with, and I was like, yes.
And
I had 2 water bottles. I was like, no, I'm fine. Just let me ride this out. I'm having a great, great, happy time. I'm good. I'm good. I'm good. I've got my water. I'm going back to the campsite. I only did 2 points. I'm 260 pounds at the time. Like, I'm fine. And there's a moment where they went from this very acoustic song, and then they went into this very dubby, but not dubstep, kind of just, it was weird. It sounded 80s in a way, almost industrial kind of pop in a way, but there was a consistent acoustic instrumentalization that was carrying it through, and the lights went pink. And I was like, this is the greatest thing ever. It was so, like, that, I will say, like, don't condone drug usage, but if you think you are somebody who can understand what the drug will do, understand how you will use the drug, use it safely, be in a safe place, it will truly expand your mind. And having that moment where I was okay, like, I was not sober, but I wasn't so beyond, I wasn't aware of reality.
Right.
But having that moment and where everything just went pink, that moment will stick with my life forever.
Yeah, I know that there have been times where a lot of lighting transitions are really impactful in combination with the music, especially when they're purposeful. I know there's times when, a note come crashing in, and then the lights do this and that and change in such a way. And those kind of moments are the ones that really get me. I very much enjoy seeing the dynamics of it. And they set up a laser cage kind of thing one time at the theater.
A laser cage?
Yeah, so they had, I think, more or less a cube truss around them that you couldn't really see from the audience perspective, and it was mounted with lights on that rotated and lasers that shot horizontally and vertically. So they literally made a cube of light that looked sort of like a Rubik's Cube around all of the people on the stage. It was fucking ridiculous, and I was just like, man, like, this is like watching a band perform live inside of a Rubik's Cube that glows from the middle.
That sounds awesome.
God, so was. But every light show I've seen of theirs has been spectacular, and the Tennessee Theater is such a great light show friendly venue from a stage lighting point of view. It's great. Yeah.
But I will say, I think those moments at concerts, raves, festivals, where the lights completely take over, the amount of color, the amount of emotion that these lights and these colors create within you, I truly think that's probably the most inspirational moment for me when it comes to my painting. Because I've listened to some of your podcasts, I think it's interesting because the painters that I like influence my dance, and my dancing influences my painting.
How does that play on itself?
Images.
Okay.
So, like the Bosch paintings, taking the parrot-headed demon that's in this particular movement, and then creating that movement that's a very still, stagnant, painted image, but then returning to that within movement and making sure, like, that... Yeah. Also...
Do you listen to heavier things when you paint, being inspired by heavier things?
No, I'm pretty light when it comes to my music. I will say I like hip-hop and dubstep and industrial, and I like heavy sounds, but I like happy music.
Okay. So you're not going to be listening to like Megadeth or Disturbed?
No, I will go see a Megadeth concert.
Okay.
I will go see a Megadeth concert, but when it comes to painting, I prefer...
In your workflow?
In my workflow, I like happy, dancey, fun, upbeat sounds. Because even though, like, some of the hip-hop I listen to, even though lyrically it might get a bit aggressive, the beat is driving, the beat is technically aggressive, but it's keeping me in a happy, good, upbeat, flow, go with it, work kind of mood. Like, I love Lana Del Rey, but I can't listen to Lana Del Rey and paint. I don't know who can, because that's just so depressing, and we need that in our lives.
It's too mopey.
It's too mopey, and we need music that allows us to express all of our emotions, in my opinion. But I love to paint, so I don't want to be sad when I paint.
Yeah, that's fair. That's totally fair. Yeah, go ahead.
Okay.
Alright, so after that, are there any other artists or creative people in general that filter into your work somehow? Really? She must have some things.
She has a comment.
Decca, what are some of your artistic inspirations, if you must? Okay, thank you for your important feedback. Are there musicians that feed your visual creativity? Are there architects, sculptors, anything like that outside of like the visual medium that is paint?
That's such a hard question to answer, because yes, all of them. When it comes to, I've mentioned Bosch, Pollock. I'm probably gonna butcher this name too. Polish painter Biskinski.
I know who you speak of. Yes.
Yeah, Biskinski.
Yes.
Yeah, Polish paint. His work is so. I think his work is probably what I think I'm trying to accomplish at the end of, not today, not next year, not the next 5 years, but his work is what I want people to feel from mine.
Okay.
There's a dystopian kind of disorientation to his work, but it's so vibrant and colorful at the same time that you, or at least in my opinion, even though I look at his weird pieces, and he inspired Guillermo del Toro with his Hellboy movies and a lot of stuff like that, the way he paints cityscapes and buildings. But his work is so heavy, but it's so vibrant that I don't ever think the piece is heavy. You know, or the way it makes me feel is never heavy.
Right.
It just makes me ask questions. And, like, one of my favorite paintings is this weird, like, kind of, what are they called? Like, just like, the circular with the columns in the park. I'm drawing a blank. I'm sorry. I'm really not setting this up well. But it was kind of like, it's on the tip of my tongue. Anyways, so it's this naturescape with almost a skeletal kind of ghoul in this park under this building with the pillars in the middle of this park. But it's bright blue, the ghoul.
Okay.
It's bright blue, like cerulean sky blue, against this huge background of muted browns, grays, and blacks, touch of red to fill out the architecture of the building. But that bright, vibrant blue makes it such a heavy painting still seem light and accessible. And it makes me ask questions about, is life just art? Or not, is life just dark? Is life just light? Life is all of these things. Yeah. You can't have light without the dark. So Biskinski, I don't think you could actually really see a lot of the inspiration I take from him within my work. But his use of color definitely makes a way. Like throwing weird colors into weird situations because they might work. Or creating a dark piece but then doing it in cerulean. So things like that. Pop artists. I do love pop music, which I mentioned earlier. Swedish artist Elephant, Elliphanty, because she's dyslexic, so she writes all her lyrics the way she actually perceives words. Okay. She sounds like a blend of Janis Joplin and Bob Marley over pop music. Fascinating woman.
All right. That's a mix.
And Tovlo.
Okay.
I appreciate their realness when it comes to lyricism because they say some freak nasty shit, but they also say some really dark, I think, juxtaposition.
Yeah.
If any artist who's willing to go super dark and then super light, or super comedic and then super tragic at the same time, they influence my soul, and then I create whatever happens from that.
I think there's a versatility to be able to play on both ends of that spectrum and put those two things right next to each other. Mm-hmm. There's something about people that can do that creates some kind of satisfying result.
Yep, the whole like crying on the dance floor track, like that inspires me.
and do you literally dance to it and paint?
Yeah. So if there's a song like Tovlo is a really great example of creating really dark lyricism with really happy sounds. in a way that actually makes you think like you're going through something dark, but you're pushing for something better.
Mm-hmm.
Oh yeah, I will turn on Tovlo and I'll crank out like 3 paintings in a day.
Nice.
Because her Ladywood album was definitely just so good, because you had these sonics and these sounds that sounded like nightclubs.
Okay.
The sounds sound like what strobe lights are.
Oh shit.
Pulsing, inviting, dragging you into this like dark techno warehouse rave vibe. But then when you actually listen to the lyrics, she's talking about heartbreak and possible drug addiction and being lost as a human. But then the beat is just like
So that's a
constant.
serious juxtaposition.
So it's a serious juxtaposition, but it's because, or at least in my interpretation, it's acknowledging the bad but wanting the good, because you have to acknowledge and learn the lesson. Like we mentioned earlier, you have to take the bad things, the failures, the situations you come across that aren't really happy situations, and apply them and learn, and then get better and move forward. So that's why I like those Crying on the Dance Floor tracks, because it forces you to acknowledge, you know, when you're singing along in your car, it forces you to acknowledge a sad moment, but the song keeps you moving forward.
Right.
So I like that journey. I like the juxtaposition, and I like always moving forward, no matter how dark it is, because I will always throw some neon pink on some shit.
So, usually my last question for folks is, since you've been here and you've had the chat, who are some individuals or groups of people you would like to hear on the show, or would recommend people look up in general?
I wish I knew. I feel like you should answer that question to me.
Oh, goodness.
Because I don't... I'm just fresh to Knoxville, so I don't know the Knoxville
Well, it
artists.
doesn't have to be Knoxville. Just people that you may know in Nashville. Nashville recommendations are fine, because this is exclusively Knoxville.
So 2 people. So Mary League, who's the one who does the Seeing Circles Art Collective, I think the 2 of you would get along, honestly. She's a brilliant human to talk to. Like, her artwork is fantastic. She has so many ideas, and she does so many different things. I think that would be fascinating. And actually, the other girl who was with us at the Waverly Art Park, Vanity Womble, Womble. Shout out Vanity. Incredible artist.
Okay.
Weirdo. She's also phenomenal at networking. Like, this woman knows everyone. And I will go out after work, and she's there. And I'm like, I just left you. How are you here? She's like, I just know everybody. I'm like, yeah, her networking...
I see that.
Her networking skills are insane. She knows everybody. She makes jewelry. She's done engineering. She works on race cars. She paints.
Nice.
She does photography. She models. Like, this woman... Like, yeah.
So those 2.
Yeah, you'll definitely have to reel her in, because she's a talker.
Oh, great. Perfect.
So again, great for this pod. Yeah, Vanity Womble and Mary League. They're both... I don't want to say Vanity's Nashville based. She is currently, but she's been Tennessee, Chat, Knox, all over the place based off the stories I've gotten from her.
Okay.
And Mary is from Chicago and lives in Nashville now. And then I'm going to have to go through your podcast and learn about Knoxville artists.
There are a few good ones in there, and I say few because I've only had a few episodes, not because only a few of them.
I mean,
are good
19's not a few.
Okay, but I'm not going to brag.
You said
about
it earlier, more episodes than months in a year.
Yeah, so I'm
like, you lowballed me on that table. Don't lowball yourself.
I've been reasonably productive. I'll say that. And that's how I feel about it. I feel good about having more episodes than there are months, because I've given this an amount of time that I feel is appropriate, justifiable effort, trying to make things happen and have good conversations with good people and share them with other people that want to hear it. So it is what it is. I'm happy with what I've done so far. Eventually I'll get the hardware set up, figured out perfect, and get probably this room soundproofed a little more and more sonically friendly to the microphone. But if you'll give people your socials again and tell everybody where to find everybody, that would be great, and then we'll get on out of here.
Awesome. Well, again, my name is Matthew Cutright, Nashville-based artist. Instagram is Matt Cutright Art, all lowercase, one word. Also part of Seeing Circles Art Collective, which you can probably find a link through my Instagram to them. Yeah, I like to make the world more colorful.
Awesome. Thanks, everybody, for tuning in to the KAAMP. My name is Thomas. It's been a great time recording this episode. I hope you all have a great time listening to this episode. I recently switched my podcast host to Anchor, so if you want to support the podcast via Anchor's support avenues, please do so. I would greatly appreciate it, and it would help me produce more of these episodes more often. Otherwise, if you want to support the podcast, go buy my art, because it's available. It glows in the dark, it's bright colored, shit's cool, and I'm happy making it for y'all. So those are the ways you can help me keep doing the thing. This was the KAAMP. I'm Thomas Zachary. Thank y'all very much. Goodbye.